Hello everybody, and welcome to my Read-Aloud of Captain Underpants and the revolting fetch of the radioactive Robloxers, book 10 in the series, full color edition, the usual stuff. Let's just start. I can't draw the page.
Help! The world is in big trouble. Maybe the comic book of the next page will help to straighten things out.
The top secret truth about Captain Underpants. Once upon a time, the two little kids named George and Hal. Weed the boss daddies, me too. That it really made Prince named Mr. Crab. Blah, blah, blah. One time you hypnotized him. You're all bitch. They made him believe he was a superhero. You're now Captain Underpants. It was funny at first. Oh, no! But then Mr. Crab jumped out the window. What? Mr. Crab really thought he was Captain Underpants. He got in lots of trouble. Come on, Bob. No way I'm a hero. One time a big monster attacked the school. It tried to eat up Mr. Crab. George found some superpowers from a UFO. Drink a bomb. Then Mr. Crab got superpowers. Pow! Now he can fly and stuff. The worst part is whenever Mr. Crab hears someone tap the fingers, snap, he turns into Captain Underpants. And whenever Captain Underpants is on his head, he turns back into Mr. Crab. Blah, blah, blah. Alright, seriously? At this point, you should just read. Like, Dave Pilkey, why did you just number them? Why just number them here? Like, when you don't number them, then people who will buy them in the bookstore may not think they need to be read in any particular order. Or this might think the first one that they ever pick up is the first one. So anyways, in our last adventure, there was an evil guy named Tippy Tinkle Trousers. That's me! He built a big rubber suit. Then he climbed inside. I'm going to destroy Captain Underpants! Oh yeah! They got in a big fight. Behold my eyes, Ray! Zap! Miss me! Tippy accidentally froze his feet to the ground. Oh no, my feet are froze! Ha ha! Clank! Rats, you broke my robot! But Tippy's roller pants was also a time machine. I'm going to escape by going back in time! Oh no! Tippy's roller pants went back in time 5 years ago. Some bullies saw the roll pens and got scared. Yeah! They got so scared they all went bunkers. Doi, goo goo gaga, niggle boo boo. Mr. Crump got blamed for the whole thing. You're fired, Superintendent. I'm a victim of soy substance. What is that? Anyway, now the future has changed. Everything is different. Since Mr. Crump got fired 5 years ago, why me? He never got hypnotized by George and Harold, huh? Since Mr. Crump didn't get hypnotized, he never turned into Captain Underpants. Since Captain Underpants doesn't exist, who's that? He wasn't there to save the world. Who will save us? Beats me! Tippy realized his mistake when he came back to the present. Oh no! The world got destroyed! All because I scared those bullies! Tippy vowed to make things right. I'll fix this mess! But then, stop! Who will save us now? Chapter 1, George and Harold. This is George being Hamilton's. George is the giant zombie known on the left at the time, the flat top. Harold is the giant zombie number on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. So you see, now they look totally different. They look like beastie yelly type-ish because the aliens made them drink super evil rapid growth juice. Anyway, if you read our last adventure, you may recall the final terrifying scene where Tippy Tinkle ended up carrying beneath the gigantic foot of zombie nerd Harold. You were probably horrified when the super-sized shoe slammed down to the ground, leaving behind a squishy red stain. You may even commented on the surprising inappropriateness of such a murderous and bloody scene appearing in a children's book and my most recent read-aloud video. It's fun to feel offended, isn't it? Unfortunately, I'm sorry to have to tell you that there was no murder at the end of the last book. There wasn't even any blood. What happened at the end of our last story was something called misdirection. It is what happens when you're led to believe something that is true, but in reality it's not true at all. Misdirection happens a lot in real life, especially in politics, history, education, medicine, marketing, science, religion, and the Oprah Winfrey Network. I don't know what is that. Anyway. With all that misdirection out there, life can get a little confusing. But don't worry, this epic novel contains no misdirection whatsoever. This legendary tome will explain everything, from our recent narrative complexities to the vast mysteries of our universe. By the time you get to page 210, you'll know it all. You'll be a genius. You'll be smarter than the most brilliant scientist who ever walked the earth. Oh, really? So let's get started, shall we? If you ever been to the zoo, you might have noticed that really big creatures move kind of slowly. Take elephants, for example. They don't move very fast, they don't move very fast even when they're in a hurry. They might cover a lot of ground, but that's only because they're so big. If you were to shrink an elephant down to the size of a house cat, you'd be shocked at how long it takes for them to get from one place to another. They're so darn slow that it won't be long before somebody changed the tortoise and the hare to the more appropriate, the miniature elephant and the hare. But wait a minute. There is no hare! I think the really more appropriate title would be The Tortoise and the Miniature Elephant. It's the same thing with lunchroom zombie nerds. Sure, they're big and scary and stuff, but they move.
Well,
So if a zombie nerd ever lifts his foot above you, over you with the intent of stomping you into a puddle, don't worry, you actually have a few minutes before you're in any real danger. Timmy found this out the hard way. When zombie nerd Harold lifted his foot above Timmy's head, Timmy screamed in horror. Then Timmy screamed again, and again. Then Jason watched to scream some more. Finally, Timmy's voice got a little scratchy from all that screaming, so he got up and walked over to one of the few remaining stores on the planet to buy some cherry throat lozenges. While he was there, he purchased a new suit and bow tie, read part of a magazine, and got a foot massage. On his way out the store, Timmy noticed an extra large novelty ketchup pack that was on sale, so he bought it and dragged it back to the scene of the crime. Zombie nerd Harold's shoe was still coming down slowly as Timmy placed the extra large novelty ketchup pack under it and walked away. Timmy climbed back into his robe pants just as zombie nerd Harold's shoe hit the pavement and crushed the giant novelty ketchup pack. And the zombie nerds probably thought it was Tippy. Tippy wanted to prank them, to fool them, just so he escape. But anyway, a bright red stain squished out beneath the zombified shoe as Timmy's robe pants disappeared in a crackling glow of light. You see, Timmy had mistakenly caused him trouble the last time he had gone back in time, so he had to go back again to undo the damage he'd done. But before I can tell you that story, I have to give you this warning. Chapter 2. Let's get serious, folks! Do you ever notice how grown-ups hate it when kids are having fun? Seriously, when was the last time you were doing something fun and some adult came over and made you stop? If you're like most kids, you're probably reading this very book because some adult wanted you to quit playing video games or watching TV. If you don't believe me, try this experiment. Grab a few of your friends, go to the corner of a room, and start goofing around. Make some noise, start laughing and cheering, maybe shout out a woohoo or two. It's been scientifically proven that 89.4% of all grown-ups will drop whatever they're doing and rush over to put a stop to whatever nonsense you're up to. You have to wonder, why are most grown-ups like this? Weren't they ever kids themselves? Didn't they enjoy laughing and cheering and goofing around when they were young? If so, then when did they stop, and why? Now, I certainly can't speak for all adults, but I'm going to anyway. This is just like Book 8. They continue to say how adults are so stupid. I think it's a lot easier for adults to stop out someone else's fun than it is for them to reflect on their own lives and figure out where it all went so miserably wrong. It's just too depressing for grown-ups to ponder all the decades of compromises, failures, laziness, fear, and regrettable choices that slowly transform them from running, jumping, laughing, fun-loving kids into grumpy, complaining, calorie-counting, easily offended, peace and quiet, demanding grouches. In other words, it's harder to look within yourself than it is to show, "Oh, you kids, cut that up!" Keeping this in mind, you might not want to smile or laugh while reading this book. And when you get to the flip-around parts, I suggest you flip with a bored, disinterested look on your face, or some adult will probably take this book away from you and make you read Sarah Plain and Tall instead. Don't say I didn't warn you. And, looks like the books that he brought up are 7 Steps to Living a Marginally Less Unfulfilled Life and Lose Weight While Blaming Others. I don't think those are real books. Anyway, Chapter 3. Timmy returns again. Timmy Tinkercharge was in big trouble. He had zapped himself back in time 5 years and accidentally fined 4 bullies. This thoughtless mistake set in motion a series of events that ultimately got Mr. Krupp fired. And since there was no Mr. Krupp, there was no Underpants. Since there was no Underpants, there was nobody to save the world from the terrible devastation caused by the villains from our first 3 epic novels. Timmy decided there was only one thing to do: go back in time and stop himself from scaring those bullies. But in order to do this, he had to go back in time before the last time he had gone back in time. So Timmy set his Tickle Time Travelometer for 10 minutes before the last time he had arrived in the past, and pressed the away we go button. After several seconds of made-for-television style visual effects, Timmy found himself transported to the awful night of the terrifying thunderstorm. Everything looked very familiar. He knew at any moment the 4 bullies would come ready from the school and tear across the football field. Then they would come face to face with him, well, a slightly younger version of him, and only he could stop it all from happening. Timmy hid behind the side of the school and waited as the wind howled ferociously. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of lightning struck a nearby power line. The electricity in the school went out, and all of the windows became dark. Timmy listened closely and heard the sounds of squealing and slapping and shuffling. It sounded as if a terrible struggle was taking place inside the school. Then suddenly, the back door of the school crashed open, and the 4 petrified bullies shoved their way outside. Quickly, they darted toward the football field. This was Timmy's big chance. He aimed his freezing beam for 1,000 of the running delinquents and zapped them all with a mini amount of molecularly modified ice. Again, with these alliterations, can you stop? Anyway, the 4 bullies were frozen in place. Timmy scanned the boys with his life systems monitor and found them to be perfectly preserved. The carbonite Tibana gas-infused ice had been programmed to remain solid for 15 minutes, just long enough for Timmy to do his thing. Quickly, Timmy turned toward the football field where a ball flew and it was growing bigger and bigger. Suddenly, it exploded in a blinding flash. And there where the ball lining had been was a giant pair of robotic pants. Boy, that was a close one, said a voice from inside the desk of the newly arrived robot pants. Captain Underpants is a lot stronger than I thought. The zipper of the newly arrived robotic trousers opened and Tiny Man peeked out to marvel at the world of 5 years ago. But to his surprise, he saw an identical copy of himself staring straight at him and tapping his gigantic robotic foot impatiently. Who are you? Asked the newly arrived Tippy. I'm you! Shouted future Tippy. You from the future! What's going on? Asked Tippy. I'm here to stop you from scaring those kids over there, said future Tippy, pointing at the frozen boys. Why? Said Tippy. What's so important about those kids? I have no idea, said future Tippy. All I know is I scared those kids when I came back here last time, and apparently it caused a chain reaction resulting in the total destruction of the Earth, more or less. I see, said Tippy. So what do we do now? Future Tippy looked at his watch. Those kids are going to saw in 8 minutes and 11 seconds, he said. We've got to be gone by then. So he reached into the cockpit of his robot pants and grabbed one of his very first inventions, the Shrinking Pin 2000. Tippy aimed it at the younger version of himself and pressed the button. A powerful beam of energy blasted the newly arrived Tippy trousers and his gigantic pair of robot pants and shrunk them down to the size of a baseball. Saw them talking really fast, so that you can keep up. Big Tippy reached out and picked up the tiny version of himself. What you there for? Shouted Tiny Tippy. I can't very well have two of us running around, said Big Tippy. I'm going to keep an eye on you. Big Tippy tucked Tiny Tippy into his jacket pocket and checked his watch again. 4 minutes and 16 seconds, he muttered to himself. He looked over at the 4 bullets encased in the now cracking ice mountain. Big Tippy turned to his Tingle Time travelometer and programmed it for a date in the future. Time was running out. The ice around the bullets was disintegrating faster. Tippy sneaked away into the center of town, pressed his away we go button, and disappeared into a ball of blue lightning. 2 seconds later, the ice mountain that had encased and preserved the boys disintegrated completely. Without skipping a beat, the 4 or 5 friends continued their mad dash away from the school. As they ran across the football field toward their home, something about keep out his friends, wherever they would never give me the boys. They won't worry. I already read that for the 3rd time. Now, Chapter 4, Fixing the Future. Big Tippy set his Tingle Time travelometer for a sunny afternoon in October, 4 years in the future. He arrived as usual, and a big ball of blue lightning that grew bigger and bigger until it swung blind flash. Cried Tiny Tippy. I can't see a thing! Shh! Shushed Big Tippy as he shoved Tiny Tippy down into the deep, darkened depths of his jacket pocket. Big Tippy listened carefully. Hear the voice of a child muttering, "This can't be good." Tippy unzipped the zipper of his robe pants and peeked out. To his delight, the world looked like he usually did. No destruction, no giant zombie birds, no move rocks. Everything seemed pretty normal. "Hey, it's Professor Pants!" shouted a small boy whom Tippy recognized immediately. Suddenly, 2 cops standing nearby started to laugh, which angered Tippy. "Stop laughing!" shouted Tippy. "My name is no longer Professor Pants. I changed into Tippy Tingletrounce." The 2 cops laughed even harder. "And I got a special surprise for anybody who thinks my new name is funny," said the furious professor. And yes, finally, this is when Tippy goes forward in time to bring us to the events of Book 8, thereby altering the tall line in Book 9. Jeez, Dave, you wrote 2 books to tell us all that. But anyway, Tippy pressed the button on his freezing beam 4000, causing it to rise from the depths of his robe pants. He set the freeze ray for 20 minutes and zapped the cops, transforming them into frozen statues. "My freezing beam 4000 will take care of anybody who stands in my way," said Tippy. "And now," he said with a wicked smile, "it's time for my revenge! On Earth!" screamed George. Screamed Hale. Tippy chased George and Hill, the 2 pets, stool, and crackers through town, zapping his freezing beam 4000 at them and laughing maniacally. The chase lasted all afternoon into the night. The 4 friends hid behind buildings, inside trash bins, under bridges, and even down the sewer. But it didn't matter where they sought refuge, because Tippy Tingletrounce always found them. By the morning of the next day, our heroes had found a hiding place behind some bushes near the park. "What are we gonna do?" whispered George. "There's nowhere else to hide." "I don't know," whispered Harold. George and Harold looked at the 2 pets, shivering with them in the morning mist. "We're not going to make it," whispered George. "But there's no reason that Sue and Crackers should have to suffer." Harold's eyes began to water. "You're right," he whispered. George and Harold petted their 2 friends sadly as they devised a plan to return to the dinosaur age. We could use the purple potty to take Crackers back home where we found him," said George. "Yeah," said Harold, "and Sulu could stay there with them. They'll both be safe there." As soon as it was clear, the 4 friends sneaked away from the bushes and headed for Drumhurst Elementary School, carefully avoiding major streets and intersections. It was almost noon by the time George and Harold and the 2 pets reached the school. Cautiously, they sneaked through the front door and dashed up the stairs to the library. "Hey, Bugs!" shouted Mr. Crump angrily. "Where have you get been?" George and Harold looked down and saw Mr. Crump carrying a large cardboard box. "Well?" Mr. Crump shouted. "Get down here and explain yourselves!" George and Harold looked at the 2 pets and continued running up the stairs. Mr. Crow was furious. His day hadn't started out very well. For some strange reason, all the red curtains in his office had been disappearing, and he wasn't happy about it. So Mr. Crow had driven angrily to the store, bought a replacement box of curtains, started a big fight with the cashier, got a flat tire on the way home, and now his truant students were bringing animals into the school, ignoring his commands, and running up the stairs. You can get back here! Shouted Mr. Crow as he chased after the four fine friends. George, Harold, and Crackers and Sulu raced to the top of the stairs, dashed to the library, and locked the door behind them. There they beheld their old troublesome nemesis, the Purple Potty. It was a homemade time machine that had a few quirks, to say the least, and our heroes approached it cautiously. Do you still remember how to use this thing? Asked Harold. Of course, said George. We just used it yesterday morning. All I have to do is set the controller for 65 million years ago, then pull down the chain. Easy squeezy, mac and cheesy. Suddenly, Mr. Crumb reached the library door and struggled with the locked doorknob. The boys heard a shuffling sound, followed by the jingling of keys. Let's boogie! Cried George. The four friends climbed to the Purple Potty and George closed the door. At that very moment, Mr. Crumb came crashing through the library door with his box of red curtains. He ran to the Purple Potty and banged on the door. I know you're in there! He screamed, you can't hide from me forever! Hurry! Cried Harold as George fiddled with the controller. We've got to get out of here! I'm working as fast as I can! Cried George. Suddenly, a gigantic dark shadow filled the library. Mr. Crumb turned to see a huge robotic pair of trousers at the window. The zipper unzipped and Timmy took a charge peek through the cavernous opening. I got you now! He shouted, ha ha ha! Timmy reached from the line end. It was facing B4000 as Mr. Crumb cowered in terror. At that very moment, George finished setting the controller for 65 million years ago. Then he pulled down the chain. All at once, was a brilliant flash of green light in the Purple Potty, along with Mr. Crumb and his cardboard box disappeared into a whirlwind of electrified ozone. Chapter 5. Tiny Trippy's Tremendous Task. Rats! Screamed Timmy as he watched the Purple Potty disappear. Those kids have a time machine, and I don't know where they went! What's going on? Cried Tiny Timmy from the depths of Big Timmy's pocket. I can't see a thing! Those kids took over the time machine! Big Timmy barked at the miniature version of himself. And he took out Underpants with them! What did they go? Asked Tiny Timmy. How should I know? Big Timmy yelled. Hey, I go right there! Asked Tiny Timmy. What do I go back and find out? Good idea, mate! Said Big Timmy. He reached down and placed Tiny Timmy into the library. You go back inside 10 minutes and listen to everything they say. Then when I show up, tell me where they went. You got it! Said Tiny Timmy. He set his single time travelometer for 10 minutes ago and ended up crackling as soon as he was gone. Tiny Timmy arrived at the same spot he had left, only it was now 10 minutes earlier. He heard some people running up the stairs, so he decided to hide behind the trash can. Suddenly, George and Helen, the two pets, dashed into the room and locked the door behind them. Tiny Timmy watched as the boys tiptoe toward the tall time-traveling toilet. Do you still remember how to use this thing? Asked Harold. Of course, George. We just used it yesterday morning. All I have to do is set the controller for 65 million years ago and then pull it down the chain. Easy, squeezy, mac and cheesy. Muttered Tiny Timmy. You're going back in time to the Mesozoic era. Tiny Timmy watches the four friends climb to the time machine and close the door. He saw Mr. Crumb crash through the library door and bang on the lavender lavatory. Then he saw himself, the big version of himself, that is, appear at the window. I got you now! Shouted Big Timmy. Ha ha ha! Suddenly, there was a brilliant flash of green light in the Purple Potty, along with Mr. Crumb and his cardboard box disappearing into a world with electrified ozone. Rats! Screamed Timmy as he watched the Purple Potty disappear. Those kids have a time machine, and I know where they went! I don't! Said Tiny Timmy as he stepped out from behind the garbage can. Who are you? Asked Big Timmy. I'm Tiny Timmy! Said Tiny Timmy. That's impossible! Said Big Timmy. Tiny Timmy is right here! He reached into his pocket and pulled out the miniature version of himself who had been complaining because he couldn't see his thing. I'm 10 minutes older than that guy! Said Tiny Timmy. You said it back in time so I can find out where those kids went to. Oh, I get it, said Big Timmy. Good idea, me. So where'd they go? They went back in time to 65 million years ago, said Tiny Timmy. Aha! Said Big Timmy and slightly younger Tiny Timmy to themselves simultaneously. They're going back in time to the Mesozoic era! Big Timmy picked up Tiny Timmy and shoved him into his pocket next to slightly younger Tiny Timmy. Let's all go back to the dinosaur age, shall we? If we time it right, we can get there just before that Purple Potty arrives. Chapter 6, 65 million years ago. The primitive midday sky lit up with several blinding flashes. The Purple Potty suddenly appeared in the top of an ancient tree. George and Helen successfully brought Crackers back to where they had found him. But when they opened the door of the Purple Potty, they discovered they had also brought a stowaway. What the heck is going on here? Grabbed Mr. Crumb as he hung from a branch high up at the treetop. Oh no! Cried George. Mr. Crumb must have been standing too close to the Purple Potty. Was not backward in time. He got sent back with us. Harold reached out his hand to grab hold of Mr. Crumb. How could things get any worse? He asked. Suddenly, the tree started to shake. With the tree, George and Harold looked down and saw Timmy's gigantic row of heads kicking the side of the tree. What's he doing here? Cried Harold. I don't know, said George, but I think we're about to fall. The horrible kicking continued and the tree shook wildly. Finally, the Purple Potty slid sideways and toppled over. We're done! Screamed Harold as they all fell. The Purple Potty had cracked and split apart as it tumbled down the side of the tree. Mr. Crumb fell too, smacking it against every branch on the way down. Suddenly, the Purple Potty hit the ground with a terrible crash and broke apart into 1,000 pieces. Mr. Crump hit the ground too, but was surprised to find out that he wasn't hurt a bit. Big Timmy kicked through the wreckage of the pro potty, but could not find any trace of George and Harold or their pets. "Where's the thing go?" he asked.
Look!
Cried the two tiny Timbies who were peeking out of Big Timmy's pocket. Crackers had grabbed George and Harold and Sula at the last second. "Good boy, Crackers!" cried George. "You saved us! Not for long!" screamed Big Timmy as he peered peevishly from a porthole on top of his robe pants. "You mean a porthole on his emergency hatch? Right up there. Well, where's the crack between these two halves of the emergency hatch?"
It's best not to think about it.
Anyway, George and Harold looked down at Mr. Crump, who was still trying to figure out how he had fallen 60 feet and not gone hurt. The two boys snapped their fingers. Suddenly, a welcome smile spread across Mr. Crump's face. Immediately, he pulled off his shoes and socks. Then he unclipped his tie and ripped off his shirt. He grabbed a red curtain from the cardboard box beside him and tied it around his neck as he wiggled out of his pants. Captain Underpants was back! And Timmy Ticklehouse and his two tiny twins were in for the fight of their lives. Chapter 7, Two Tiny Traitors. George and Harold ran through the thick jungle foliage with Crackers and Sula flying above them. Captain Underpants decided to tag along too, just for fun. Big Timmy jumped onto the back of a nearby Tyrannosaurus Rex and chased after them. "You can't run forever!" shouted Big Timmy. "When I catch you guys, I'm gonna tear you apart!" "Can I help?" As the two tiny Timmys who were tucked away in Big Timmy's jacket pocket. "No!" yelled Big Timmy sternly. "You two keep quiet while I take care of business! This is a job for a man, not two old twabs like you!" As the chase continued, the two tiny Timmys grumbled to themselves. "Boy, I'm gonna turn on a giant jerk buzzing us around!" The tiny Timmy. "Me too!" Mrs. Langer, a tiny Timmy. "He thinks it's a big shot just because he's huge! I should watch I still have my Goosey Girl 1000. The tiny Timmy. "Then I can make myself big again! I was just thinking the same thing!" Mrs. Langer, a tiny Timmy. "But unfortunately, showed the Goosey Girl 1000 levels have a rule suit and cannot best destroy and package up to ready for the last epic novel. Hey!" cried tiny Timmy. "Why don't we go back on in 4 times chapter ready for the last epic novel? We can grab the Goosey Girl 1000 and make ourselves gigantic! I like the way you're saying, me!" Mrs. Langer, a tiny Timmy. So while Big Timmy chased everybody through the treacherous jungles of the Cretaceous period, the two tiniest Timmys set their Tingle Time travelometers for the night of the big battle from Chapter 8 of our last epic novel. Big Timmy was so engrossed in his pursuit of our heroes that he didn't even notice the teensy weensy blue sparks of light emanating from his pocket as the two devious doppelgangers disappeared into the wind with the old troposphere. Now, actually, before I move on, I have to explain this right now. Remember back in Book 9, Timmy Turtle's machine wasn't just pants. He did have a top. But in Book 9, Killer Pants ripped the top half off, and that's when Timmy went back in time to scare those boys. Now he chased history so that thing never happened. So logically, should the top of the machine just be materialized into existence? Then again, his other cells aren't erased from existence, so who knows. Just to clarify, he had a spare shrinking pin 2000, of course, in the bottom half. That's what he used to shrink his other cells. But he also had a Goosey Girl 4000. It was in the top half. So now it's gone. So the other two tiny Timmy Trousers clones are going back in time to that point so they can go out to the wreckage, grab the Goosey Girl 4000, and zap themselves so they can be as big as Tippy. But that thing never happened now because they just changed history. So what the frick is going on? Tell me, Dave Pilkey.